Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, WAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Of course, a nice round of applause for them. Yes! Yes! But it's good stuff. I'm thinking about having one of those gigantic tomahawk cuts today. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast. All of our independents. There's about 215 stations total. Big number, folks. As well as everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and Wow Cable TV, Hotel Television. Big hello to our friends over on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Of course, they get a nice round of applause, too. All right, here we go. How about this? How about the college athletes? You know that whole NIL thing, that whole name, image, and likeness thing? You know, what a dumpster fire that is. Of course, I have a better phrase that rhymes with, let's see, what rhymes with cluster? Muster, right? And what rhymes with truck? Maybe it's a mustard truck or something that sounds similar to it. Anyway, still a dumpster fire. How about this one? CBS Sports says, college athletes are set to get $2.8 billion in a revenue-sharing model in a landmark case of the House versus the NCAA in a settlement. How about that one? Show me the money? So despite landmark settlement nearing, details surrounding roster sizes and Title IX remain unanswered. Oh boy. Again, this is by CBS Sports, and this is a doozy, folks. A new era of college athletics is upon us, and leaders do not have much time to prepare for the transformative age. College sports is on the precipice of changing forever after the NCAA Board of Governors and every Power 5 conference agreed to destroy the amateurism model and share revenues with players by coming to terms on settling a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit that threatens to bankrupt the collegiate athletic enterprise. Well, I've got a lot to say about this one. Nonetheless, the NCAA and leaders from the Power 5 Conference wrote in a joint statement, quote, the 5 autonomy conferences and the NCAA agreeing to settle in terms is an important step in the continuing reform of college sports that will provide benefit to student athletes and provide clarity in college athletics across all divisions for years to come. The settlement is from the Power 5 conferences. Yes, remember, this settlement is also a roadmap for college sports leaders and Congress to ensure this American institution can continue to provide unmatched opportunity for millions of students, close quote. Give me a damn break. This is ridiculous. Now, the $2.8 billion settlement in the House versus NCAA case is a landmark legal battle and has far-reaching implications anchored by the revenue sharing and the expansion of roster sizes, which might also spark more legal battles with Title IX implications in the immediate future. The legal settlement is transformative for players because not only will past athletes be compensated for prior restrictions on earnings from their name, image, and likeness via the $2.8 billion settlement, but the agreement sets the stage for future revenue sharing model, a first in the NCAA's long history, benefiting thousands of collegiate athletes starting as soon as fall of 2025. All right, so the plot thickens just a little more. Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, a House lead attorney told CBS Sports, quote, "For the first time in history, we will now have a fair and just economic system for college athletes. I could not be more delighted, but no celebrations until the system is in place," close quote. Now, the NCAA and its conferences will hammer out the details of new revenue sharing and governance models over the next few months, but a framework was revealed in internal documents uncovered by multiple outlets recently. Athletic departments must now prepare for new line items that could balloon up to $30 million annually as the richest schools prepare to share upwards toward $22 million in revenues with players while expanding roster sizes with unlimited scholarships, according to these documents. Unlimited scholarships is what they said. Why do I boo? I'll tell you afterwards. The NCAA agreed to pay the past damages over the next 10 years, $277 million annually, and will fund the payments by cutting into revenue shares with Division I schools. And of course, needless to say, had the case gone to trial in January 2025, the NCAA and its power conference risked being on the hook for more than $4.2 billion because of a triple multiplier tied to antitrust law. Even worse, had a settlement not been reached, the parties risked $20 billion in back damages and ties to several antitrust lawsuits that could have forced them into bankruptcy, according to the documents circulated last week among the conference presidents. So, this is turning into an enormous problem. NCAA President Charlie Baker recently said, quote, "The most important part of the settlement, and let's face it, is there's still a lot of work to be done there. It creates some clarity and some visibility on a whole bunch of issues that have, well, sorts of been roiling," he says roiling, "everybody for a while." Why has it been doing this? I don't know. Anyway, he goes on to say, the other thing is it does create predictability and stability for schools. It creates a tremendous amount of opportunity for student athletes, close quote. Yeah, you're just paying these kids. They're amateurs. And now they're all going to be pros because why? They're going to get paid a lot of money. And that's complete lunacy. Nonetheless, discussions, again, according to CBS, discussions concerning a settlement structure have been ongoing for nearly a year. The NCAA is responsible for 40% of the $2.8 billion settlement, and the remaining 60% comes from reducing its revenue distribution to the 32 Division I conferences over the next 10 years, $1.6 billion. Oh, yeah. And the NCAA is utilizing a formula based on revenue distribution presented to each league over a 9-year period starting in 2016, which leans heavily on basketball. Units tied to NCAA tournament participation, according to Yahoo Sports, that is. Now, the Power 5 conferences, of course, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC, will pay 24% of the overall damages. Boy, how's that going to affect Washington State and Oregon State? That's a whole nother discussion. So they'll pay 24% of the overall damages, followed by the Group of 5 at 10%. And the FCS is on the hook for 14%. And non-football conferences in Division I will pay 12% of the overall agreement, according to the documents reviewed by CBS Sports. Oh yeah, this is one gigantic mess. In fact, the commissioners of the 22 non-FBS conferences made a late push recently to flip the financial structure so that the Power 5 conferences would be responsible for 60% of the withheld NCAA distributions over the next 10 years. But that effort failed in the 11th hour when the NCAA's board of directors approved the aforementioned settlement terms that evening. So the 27 conferences outside the Power 4, yes, because they said Power 5, now it's Power 4, will be on the hook for 60% of the NCAA withheld distribution. So what about the Power 5? What about the money sitting around from the Pac-12? Now, that money doesn't necessarily only go to Washington State and Oregon State, but they have control of it. That's another discussion. Beyond the monetary figures and the future revenue sharing, the settlement also further widens the gap between the 4 power conferences fueled by football revenues and the Group of 5 conferences in the Football Bowl subdivision, the FBS. Now, power conferences are also expected to design a new governance structure to enforce rules that will be separated from its compatriots. The legislation is expected to provide unlimited scholarships with and while restructuring roster limits, while it could cut down the number of active football players, but also allow programs to award more scholarships for sports like baseball, which has long been stuck on 11.7 scholarships to share with a team of nearly 40 players, which is a very, very tough way to go for baseball. Now, further complications of the relationships among the conferences is financial gap exacerbated by a recently approved revenue structure with the college football playoff, which shares most of its revenue with the Big Ten and SEC. Simply put, just because the biggest lawsuit in NCAA history is settled and players will soon be paid off after years of carrying a multi-billion-dollar industry on their back, that doesn't mean the future will be without monumental challenges that could lead to the elimination of the sports and further separation between the haves and have-nots among athletic departments in the FBS. I mean, this is a giant mess. In the next segment, we're going to go into how much will current and future players be paid. I have to tell you, as a former player myself, we couldn't get paid anything. We could not get paid anything while we were in college because why? That would take away our amateur status, right? Because you go from amateur to pro once you're paid $1. And therein lies a very, very small problem. Not a very large problem, because now all these kids are basically being paid to stay in school outside of getting scholarships. Let's just go ahead and open that up a little bit more and make the whole thing into a big money grab, and never mind the institution of what? Academics. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this one, folks.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, WAMP.TV. This segment in part brought to you by AMP TV, WAMP.TV. Maybe you want to produce your own show. Maybe you want to have your own TV show, your own radio show, your own podcast. Contact AMP TV at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935. That's AAMP.TV. AMP TV stands for All Ages Media Programming, in case you're keeping score. And, of course, tell them the circus sent you. First, nice round of applause for AMP TV. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in to everybody all the way over in Atlanta, Georgia, WDJY over in Auburn, Alabama, WAED, home of the Atlanta Braves, and a whole bunch of others from coast to coast from Seattle all the way up to Maine, down to Miami and back. All right, also on television, thanks for joining us. Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, and Time Warner Cable Television, Hotel TV in over 550,000 rooms from coast to coast in all Nielsen-rated markets. And everybody on Chicago Food Favorites, make sure you like and follow Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, in the last segment, we're talking about this complete and utter chaotic lawsuit, the House versus the NCAA, and $2.8 billion and all this other crap. And it's just the rich getting richer here. This is ridiculous. Taking away amateur status, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and take amateur status away from these players in college sports, but let's let them keep playing because they're making money. And oh, by the way, let's give them free scholarships. And let's do what? Let's recover, or better yet, let's pay for their student loans and all this other crap on top of it. Where does it end, folks? Does it ever end? You think back to, well, maybe our generation that was doing what? Oh, that's right. We're paying for our schooling, paying for our education, paying for everything. But let's ask ourselves now, what happened to fairness? There is no fairness anymore. No. We had to pay our student loans. We had to go to work. We had to do all these things. And all these student athletes today are getting everything handed to them on a platinum platter. It's unbelievable. It's unconscionable. Oh, and by the way, let's find out how much will the current and future players, these college sports, be paid. All right, this is, again, by CBS Sports, not by me. This I find remarkably appalling. And if you don't as well, you must have a kid that's playing college sports or going to have one that's going to be playing college sports, because most of the rest of the world on this is completely disgusted on this. It's stupid. Anyway, how much will the current and future players be paid? Well, the schools among the Power Four conferences are expected to pay current players roughly $20 million annually as part of a new revenue sharing plan. And the figure will fluctuate from school to school, reflecting an estimated share of 22% of annual revenues generated by Power 4 schools. So the agreement is expected to include a cap on revenue sharing, which could start as high as $22 million annually per school, according to Yahoo Sports. And of course, the ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips, said last week, quote, "Local decisions, I think, are good at times where schools that have more resources can do more. So some flexibility in a final decision and a final agreement will be helpful for our schools." Close quote. Now, former Pac-12 schools are included in the suit as part of the pay for past damages. According to multiple reports, the 5 power conferences are responsible for roughly 40% of the NCAA's school reduction for damages between $597 million and $730 million. And those schools are expected to see an average drop between $1 million and $2 million in annual revenues from the NCAA's fund to settlement. A group of 5 schools are responsible for 17%, or $255 million to $312 million. And football championship subdivision, the FCS conferences, will share 22% of the reduction from $327 to $400 million. Meanwhile, the NCAA is expected to reduce operating costs by $18 million a year, dipping into reserves. Nice to have reserves like that, isn't it? And insurance to help fund its portion of the legal settlement, or $1.1 billion, according to Yahoo Sports. So, will the math work in the group of five is the big question. Many industry leaders, particularly those of the group of five conferences, are concerned revenue sharing could send more athletic department budgets into the red, leading to the elimination of sports programs entirely. And many athletic departments are subsidized by student fees from the university and state funds. And some already operate at a deficit. Oh, yeah. So the rich get richer once again. More than 50% of the group of five schools earn less than $40 million annually in revenues. The Power Five conferences then include the Pac-12 at that point, combined for more than $3.3 billion in revenues for the 2022 fiscal year, according to the federal tax records. And the Ohio State universities, with that big zero at the 50-yard line on their football field, conveniently earned $251 million in revenues last year to lead all Power 5 schools.
Show me the money!
Yeah. So a House plaintiff attorney said during a panel at Howard University in April, according to Yahoo Sports, quote, "You really have to think about Power 4 as different. The reason we get tied in knots is because we conflate those schools who develop these gigantic independent commercial businesses with schools who are still just educational institutions with extracurricular activities. And when you try to come up with one rule for all, you go crazy. You have to look at the schools differently. And for the ones with the money, there's plenty of money to compensate the athletes and share it with the women's sports." I like how they put women's sports at the end of it. Anyway, share it with the women's sports, close quote. So yeah, they're conveniently dropping that in there because it's kind of a big deal. Now let's talk about Title IX and antitrust for a minute. So plaintiffs of the House suit are expected to give up their right to file antitrust lawsuits against the NCAA's rule for 10 years. And the plaintiff attorneys are expected to drop 2 additional pending antitrust cases against the NCAA. And this agreement could be strengthened if the NCAA is finally successful in lobbying Congress, which could codify the settlement with legislation protecting the NCAA and its members with an antitrust exemption. So Congress, however, has been slow to act after being presented with more than a dozen proposals concerning NIL guardrails over the last several years. So Title IX complicates matters, and the future court battles could loom. And the unspoken truth about administrators is it seems unlikely they will advocate for equal pay for athletes whose sports are less than football and men's basketball. Worse, said Jason Belzer, president of the Student Athlete NIL, quote, "It's very likely we're going to see non-revenue sports get massacred. Title IX is going to be a very big battle, and how are you going to stop it? It's going to be tough," close quote. So many finers derailed are yet to be finalized, and attorneys will soon draft the terms of the settlement agreement, which they then present to Senior District Judge Claudia Wilkins in California's Northern District at a preliminary hearing yet to be scheduled. Oh boy, let's just throw it over to California and let's see if we can get their liberal, nonsensical policies to infect the balance of the other 49 states. What a mess. Now, roster sizes and scholarships, those limits will change, according to CBS Sports also. The new model will likely lift scholarship limits, but also limit roster sizes, and those details are expected to be finalized in the coming months at the conference levels and could vary within Division I. So theoretically, football roster sizes could be trimmed from 120 to 100, and scholarships could be provided to all players instead of currently mandated at 90 or 85. So for baseball crazy conferences like those in the power structure, programs could finally provide scholarships to every player on those rosters rather than criticize equivalencies of 11.7 scholarships that are shared among 27 players on a 39-man roster. So again, there is much to consider and the discussion before the numbers are finalized on the conference level over the next year. So what happens to NIL collectives? How about this one? NCAA has also proposed new enforcement in the infrastructure to target pay-for-play and booster-led NIL. Of course, booster was a big fat no-no. Booster-led NIL collectives. That detail remains vague, and according to documents obtained recently by Yahoo Sports, the documents contend the court will reaffirm rules around compensation, and of course, the schools will also be provided, quote, including the prohibition on booster payments if they are not true NIL, economic incentives to house the collective within the university. This is ridiculous. So Russell White, president of the Collective Association, said, quote, collectives aren't going to go away if there's a salary cap. Universities will continue to want to compete above and beyond. Close quote. So the 10-year rule, FBS Power 5, guess what? Revenue reduction programs from $597 million to $730. FBS Group of 5, $255 to $312 million. FCS, $327 to $400. Big Ten, $149 to $182. ACC, $141 to $172. SEC, $111 to $136. Big 12, $99 to $121. Pac-12, $96 to $117. That's the 10-year NCAA revenue reduction projections. If that isn't the biggest dumpster fire going, folks, I don't know what is. There is so much to unpack there. We don't have enough time for that. I don't even know if we're going to continue on with that in the next segment. Who knows? But it is just a big fat mess, and it's a giant money grab. Back here on the circus in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus TheSportsCircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting. Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, WAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out TheSportsCircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are our podcasts. No, we don't do a podcast. We do a real TV and radio show, a regular live show. But guess what? A lot of other people do, and that's okay. Anyway, you can find our full recorded shows at TheSportsCircus.com. And as a matter of fact, they're carried on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, Google, you name it, we're there. You can't get away from us. All right. Also, when you're at thesportscircus.com, check out the partners page. And as a matter of fact, the partners page has one of our long-standing partners. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! By the way, that's my patented yes! So don't take it. And don't try to repurpose it. Don't take the sound bite unless you contact me first. And that's how that one works. All right, so there's been quite a bit of hooey made about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA and all things, WNBA. I'm not really sure what the deal is with it. And, the only thing that I can make of it is when you take a sport or a group and you shake the group up, whatever that means, apply it to whatever you want, and there's some kind of change in there. Now, when there's change in there, people tend to do what? People tend to be resistant to change. Now, a lot of people are. It doesn't matter what it is, whether you're a golfer, a basketball player, a tennis player, I don't know. But there's that group of people that really are resistant to change. And I think we've all seen this. So I don't know where the whole basketball thing is going. I don't know where the whole WNBA thing is going. And, for quite some time, we had a couple of correspondents that were WNBA champions, one from the Seattle Storm and another one from, that's right, the Seattle Storm. We've had actually two of them from the Seattle Storm in the past. And we've had Janelle Burst and we had Alicia Thompson. And two wonderful, wonderful people. And we were able to speak freely about the WNBA and the lack of support from the NBA, right? Which many of the NBA teams own the WNBA teams, which makes it very interesting because when you think about the NBA and how over the years and years and years they've essentially, seemingly, in my opinion, distanced themselves from the WNBA as a whole. To me, it's a little concerning when you think about why they've done that. Oh, that's right, because they weren't making enough money for the franchises. So the NBA, the ownership of the NBA teams, I want to say there's about anywhere from 10, 15, 19 of them, not really sure. But when you look at the ownership in which the way that it, as I see it, distanced themselves from the WNBA, well, they really didn't do the players from the WNBA any favors. They were paying them negligible amounts of money. And nowadays, you can work at a fast food place somewhere in management and make more money than most of the WNBA players in the first place, which is a complete abomination because the ladies are out there playing basketball too. So now, what do we have? Now we have newfound interest in the WNBA. And I think it's largely due to the contracts and whatnot that were available through the name, image, and likeness thing, which we covered for the last couple of segments. And we also seem to see that Caitlin Clark has become one of the new faces of the WNBA. And she's really falling under a lot of scrutiny from this one or that one. She's not doing enough. She's doing too much. She's doing this. She's doing that. She's not doing that. It's just one big disastrous situation. And the problem is, as I see it, and I'm only giving my opinion because I can, people are so tied into this whole race baiting situation. Over and above everything. It doesn't matter whether you're purple, orange, pink, whatever color you are. It almost seems like it's going to offend somebody. Or if you don't identify with this group or that group, and you're not a member of this community or that community, then people seem to single others out because they don't represent this group or that group. The whole thing is stupid. Folks, what is sports? Sports is supposed to do what? Take us away from politics. But in today's time, we don't see the separation of sports and politics, like politics and religion. It's all the same thing. And it's almost like all that taboo dialogue went away as soon as we had our last change. Or better yet, we'll go a few administrations ago. We'll go back to Barack Obama, that guy, right? And so it seemed like, in my opinion, he was extremely separative, even though people didn't view him that way. And a lot of division was created during the time that he was at 1600 Pennsylvania. And then President number 45 comes in, makes a lot of changes, and brings some stability back to the country. And now the current administration has done nothing, in my opinion, but tear this country apart financially and from a togetherness standpoint. It's been one disaster after another. And so now you've got Caitlin Clark, who happens to be a Caucasian basketball player, women's basketball player, playing in a dominated sport by the African American community. And it seems like a lot of people are upset about it. And frankly, look, if you could play ball, you could play ball. I don't give a damn what color you are. Get out there and play ball, have some fun, entertain some people, and let's have some fun in the crowd. Let's get together here and really make some, have some laughs, make some great memories out of this. And so now Yahoo Sports had put this article out. It said, Caitlin Clark responds to bigotry in a WNBA audience. Quote, people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's exactly what I'm talking about. So, that, by the way, that was close quote. People should not be using my name to push those agendas. Close quote. It's not agendas, but agenda is plural for agenda, in case you're keeping score. Anyway, so Yahoo says amid discourse around the rookie phenom, the Fever, Indiana Fever that is, the Fever got their 4th win of the season. It doesn't matter how many wins they get. It just seems like people are going to keep beating her up. So Yahoo says, as discourse around Indiana Fever rookie and women's basketball phenom Caitlin Clark grows louder, some of the discussion has taken an uglier turn in racism and misogyny directed at the rest of the WNBA. Recently, Clark refuted that language, saying that she does not want her name used in that context. So, Clark said in response to questions from The Athletic, quote, everybody in our world deserves the same amount of respect. The women in our league deserves the same amount of respect. People should not be using my name to push their agendas, close quote. So now James Boyd is the guy that was interviewing her from The Athletic, and he said on his social media, quote, I asked Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark directly about her name being weaponized for racism, misogyny, as Dejanay Carrington alluded to. It's disappointing. Everybody in our world deserves, as I just said that. In fact, I may even have a soundbite here if I can play it.
Caitlin, I know you mentioned that, you want to focus straight on basketball. You definitely respect that. But when, just asking you directly, when people use your name for racism, misogyny, whatever, what is your response to that specifically?
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think, everybody in our world, deserves the same amount of respect. The women in our league deserve the same amount of respect. So people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing. It's not acceptable. But yeah, I mean, this league is a league I grew up admiring and wanting to be a part of. Like, some of the women in this league were my biggest idols and role models growing up and helped me want to achieve this moment right here that I get to play in every single night. So just treating every single woman in this league with the same amount of respect, I think is just a basic human thing that everybody should do. Like, just be a kind person and treat them, how you would want to be treated. And I think it's, very simple.
And, it would be nice if people actually did that. And it doesn't matter what color you are, but for Christ's sakes, people, what are we doing here? We're trying to single out somebody because they may look a little bit different than somebody else. And there's just more and more and more. And by the way, that audio clip was brought to you by The Athletic through Yahoo Sports. We want to make sure we give credit where credit is due. But, look, Clark's response came after an answer to a question, of course, by Jim Trotter earlier that day, in which Clark said that her name being weaponized. He said, look, I'm just here to play basketball. And why can't people just let them do that? I don't understand it. Why do they have to make it something that it's not? Oh, that's right, because they're failing reporting careers. They don't necessarily report responsibly. A lot of people don't do that. I'm not saying the people that I just identified don't. I'm saying a lot of people, they forget the idea of what responsible reporting is. And from an ethical standpoint, it just seems like it's non-existent. And so I'm singling out the media in this for driving this and throwing logs on the fire and making it worse and worse. And frankly, I'm a little embarrassed for the media. Just let these kids play basketball or football or baseball or hockey or whatever the hell it is they're playing. I don't care, even soccer. The point is, sports is different than politics. Leave it alone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, this segment is brought to you by the Sports Circus. Make sure you tune in, watch our shows. It's a lot of fun. Share them on your social media. Tell everybody about us. You know what? We've got many followers. We don't even really work the social media side so much. We still have well over 40,000 followers on Instagram. And you know what? Our content is available to over 200 stations on radio alone, plus in all Nielsen-rated markets on television. Folks, we're everywhere. You can't get away from us. And a big thank you to our friends over at Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you like and follow and add some input. Have some fun with it. I don't know. There's about 1,200 people that have joined that page since the beginning of the year. It's all organic. There's no pay for nothing. It's just fun. And if you like food and desserts and entertainment, whatnot, go to Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. In fact, one of our partners for that is Al's #1 Italian Beef over in Chicago's Little Italy. If you're in Chicagoland, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy, or check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And go ahead and pick up some fantastic food from Al's #1 Italian Beef. All right, welcome back to everybody, and here we go. We're going to stick with basketball, and let's check this one out. How about Dennis Rodman's son? Now, he believes he's NBA ready after a workout with the Warriors. Now, this was first reported by NBC Sports Bay Area. So, DJ Rodman knows what comes with his name. The son of course, Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman, was part of a 6-player Warrior pre-draft workout recently and turned back the clock to when he first began playing in basketball. Now, not as a tiny tyke shooting with dad, but watching him on TV as a 10-year-old more than a decade after Rodman played in the NBA. So this is kind of interesting. So Rodman said to reporters at the Chase Center and media members on Zoom, quote, "People don't know that he wasn't really in my life that much. It's cool. I remember when I was little, I used to watch Hardwood Classics on NBA TV. It's cool just looking back at the memories when I was little and watching those clips and having that be something that I studied almost every single day. Almost every single day they'd play one of those games, rebounding. That's where I got it from those videos, from those games," close quote. Now, Dennis arguably is the greatest rebounder in the NBA history at 6'7". Now, DJ is just 1 inch shorter at 6'6" or 6 foot 6 inches, averaging 4.2 rebounds in his 5-year college career. And they're two different people and two different players. Now, Dennis made 82 3-pointers in his 14-year NBA career. DJ made 89 3-pointers in his final 2 years in college. Now, Rodman spent his first 4 college seasons at Washington State and ended up at USC. He started only 12 games his first 3 years, averaging 3.9 points and 3.3 rebounds while shooting 32.7% from deep. But in his final 2 years, Rodman started 50 to 63 games and averaged 29 minutes, 9 points, 5.4 rebounds, and made 37.2% of his threes. He mostly played as an undersized 4 because of his toughness and improvements as a rebounder. Now, offensively, Rodman became a strong spot-up shooter. Now he's hoping to show teams he's more assertive on offense. And Rodman has told every team he'd worked out with that he's become significantly better there and wants to be showcased in his skills as a wing. But to do that, Rodman and his representative, Tyrell Jamerson of Triple Double Sports, came to the agreement that he needs to make changes to his shot. Don't let the last name fool you. Rodman was self-taught growing up. He didn't have personal trainers. His game wasn't being perfected. In fact, Rodman said, quote, "I like to watch myself because now I actually jump on my jump shot. I actually look like a basketball player when I shoot the ball," close quote. Now, Rodman earlier joked that he jumped maybe 2 inches when he shot at USC, and he compared his past shooting mechanics to Chantel Osahor, who shot 37.2% from three as a senior at Washington, even though her feet stayed stuck to the court. Now, despite their differences as players, the innate shared traits of father and son were unmistakable as Rodman spoke about his game. He talked about rebounding as a science, not as an athletic feat. Rodman expressed his desire to guard the other team's top scorer and pride himself on being able to guard 1 through 5 in college, being a nuisance, and finding ways to get in his opponent's head. The dog? Oh, it's in there. Rodman recognized, quote, "It's in my blood, ironically. It's true. It's in my blood, but other than that, I feel like it's something that I can control on a night-to-night basis. You can't control if you're going to make shots. You can control your effort on the defensive end. You can control giving your team the best opportunity to win by stopping your matchup or stopping one of the best players on the opposing team," close quote. So, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and many more in the past, the Warriors have had long history of success with players who have ties to bloodlines in the NBA. Rodman could be next. And of course, Rodman said of his Warriors workout, quote, "It went great, kind of kicked my butt a little bit, just running a lot. I had a good time though. And you need someone to kick you in the butt and wake you up a little bit. It was great. I had fun," close quote. Rodman didn't take a one-year path like his fellow USC teammates with more famous names, but DJ's road, like his father's, was a longer one to reach the NBA. And for reasons far from namesake, Rodman believes his path and continued development have set him up for success with the Warriors or any other team at the next level. Of course, we give him a nice little round of applause for that. I like the humility. I like the fact that he's being humble. I like the fact that he's not leaning on his father's reputation. He just has it from within. And that in itself, folks, if you don't know much about a guy like Dennis Rodman, if you watched him play, and I watched him play with Detroit, I watched him play in college. I mean, this guy was just the biggest agitator, I think, in the history of the NBA. And he played with one of the other biggest agitators, and that was Bill Laimbeer. But Dennis took it to a whole different level. It was, wow. One of those, you look at this, you're like, okay, this is the biggest antagonizer in the world, and I'm not going to let him get into my head. But no matter what you would say, he would still get into your head. It's just that way. And I can give you a parallel to that. So 100 years ago, back when I was on a pitcher's mound, I could tell you that when you're on the mound and you hear the crowd buzzing, it's just a crowd buzz. You don't really hear much. But what you do hear, especially in the opposing park, is you'll hear something once in a while come from maybe above the dugout or from an obscure location in the park, somebody with a big voice, and you'll hear the language that's basically used in the dugout, in the clubhouse. And you know it's a current ball player or a former ball player or even a relative of a former player or current player. And that's the stuff that makes you tweak your head like, huh? What was that? Because typically you don't pay attention to that stuff. But I can assure you, there have been times, and I've done this even as a former player sitting in the seats, and I will say things to players that I know that they're going to hear, they're going to tweak their heads, and it's going to get into their heads. Well, Dennis Rodman was one of those guys that he could just get into your head, whether you're at a game that he's just watching or he's playing. But he was one of those guys that once you hear his voice, it's unmistakable. It's almost like you can't get it out of your head, if you know what I mean. And so I would hear those every now and then, and I can tell you, that stuff lives in your head, at least in baseball, at least for the half an inning, could be for a second inning, a third inning, I don't know. But that stuff lives in there. And so when you're an antagonizer, not only will you get out there and brawl, but you will also go and essentially occupy real estate in somebody's head. And this is the kind of thing that Dennis Rodman did when he was in college. He did it as a Detroit Piston. And of course, then they would physically get into your head too. But he was just that guy. And if you look at the replays of some of the older film, just like his son was talking about, he's one of those guys that you just can't get away from. And he lives in your head. And so will the younger Rodman be the same kind of player? We don't know. But there have been players that are experts at that. In baseball, I know that. In basketball, there's those. In football, we have plenty of those. In hockey, we have those all the time. So what about on the coaching side of things? Dan Hurley interviewed with the Lakers, and of course the Lakers lowballed him, and he went right back to UConn. Basically, I don't know. He says he insists that he didn't use the Lakers interview as leverage for more money from UConn. I don't know about that. I wasn't there. I don't even have an opinion. I don't really give a damn. But here's the interesting thing. So J.J. Redick will reportedly interview for the Lakers job, that head coaching job, real soon. Now, J.J. Redick wasn't really a tough player as far as his psychological side. He was just a great shooter and a very, very, very good player. And so is he good for the Lakers organization? I think he's good for the Lakers organization so long as James doesn't interfere with the coaching side, because it seems like the players are more scared of James than whoever the coach is in the first place. Like James doesn't want him on the team, let's go ahead and trade him. And that's what it seems like to me. I don't know, I'm not there. But I think J.J. Redick actually would be a very good interview for the Lakers. And should the Lakers be lucky enough to land him, they may have something there. I don't know. It just seems to me like there's something with Redick, because Redick has that. He's got that aura around him. Now, I've been around him back in college. I went to Duke. And he was one of those guys that, people wanted to be around, but he had that mystique about him. He had that, it's not arrogance, it's confidence. But he really had that, and I'm sure today the Lakers are looking exactly at that to say, he could be our guy. He comes from a winning situation. And you know what? We want to bring championship basketball back to Los Angeles. And I would have to say that J.J. Redick could be the guy, and we'll see where that one goes. I don't know, folks, but, we don't really talk a lot of basketball on here, and there's a lot of reasons for it. And look, whatever happens in the draft, whatever happens in the NBA Finals, yeah, we will cover it. But generally speaking, because there was so much backlash from the whole kneeling crap on the court and the disrespect to the national anthem and all that other stuff, we just don't cover a lot of basketball these days, and it's largely because of that. And that's just a personal belief. And if there's respect restored back from the players and everything else and all the media and crap, then maybe we'll cover a little bit more basketball. But until then, we're going to stay in our position because we can. And that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. So until then, so long from Ringmaster Sal and the Sports Circus.
Yes!
And don't take my
yes
without asking.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.